Hey, hello, hello. Thank you for joining Mike Patel, Home Savvy Central. This is a live stream every Monday, currently at 4:30 California time or Pacific Standard Time. It was at 5:30, but because of some schedule conflicts and demands or requests from the viewers, I switched it earlier to 4:30. Maybe in a few weeks we'll go back to 5:30. But I'm glad you're here today, whether you're watching us live or if you're watching a recording. A lot of my viewers watch this as a recording due to the time zone difference. So people in the East Coast or the West Coast or the Midwest states are watching at different times. So I appreciate you watching. Today's topic is very interesting, very current topic, and very talked about topic. And of course, the topic is, and I don't want to make a mistake on it, but is the housing market about to crash, or are we headed towards a crash? So I wanted to discuss that and see where are we headed. And it is based on the current inventory, of course, because the crash only happens if there is an oversupply of homes, like it did happen in 2008. But we are hearing that there are other factors this time that may affect or what we call accelerate the crash other than inventory. So we're going to look at those. Maybe it's inflation, maybe it's interest rates, maybe it's the golden cuffs with the interest rates where home owners who have 2%, 3%, 3.5%, 2.5% are not moving at all. So there's a standstill in the amount of homes sold. And I'm going to look at it and we'll refer to a website shortly and see what is happening. Why is inventory low? It has been low for the 5 years, but all of a sudden in 2025, inventory has gone up. Homes are taking longer to sell. So even though there's a shortage, there was a big demand a year ago, and now with the same shortage and increase in inventory, homes are slowing down. Homes are not jumping. So let's talk about it. And if you would do me a favor and let us know, what do you think? Are we headed for a crash? When is the crash? Why is a crash? Share with us. And if you can comment, I'll try to answer some questions on this live show. Or if you're watching a recording, I'll try to answer that. In fact, I will answer all the comments. So please make comments, ask questions. We'd like to find out the local market. What I'm talking about is on a national level, but the market is very local, like what's happening in Texas and Florida. It's very different than what's happening in Orange County, California. I mean, Anaheim Hills, California is totally different than what's happening in Montana or Iowa or Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh and Chicago, Houston market has really slowed down. Some parts of Arizona market has slowed down. So I'm going to share with you a screen, and let's see what's going on over there and see where we are right now. Let's see. Let me see here. Okay, let me see if you can see that. I'm assuming you can see it. So I'm going to discuss this a little bit. I talked about inventory earlier. This is from the US existing home inventory, and it's from the charts. It shows here, if you look over here back in July 2024, if you can see it, excuse me, the inventory of supply, that means the homes for sale at a given date or month, was about 1.32 million homes for sale. And as you can see, as we got into the fall of 2024, November of 2024, and then December usually goes down because a lot of people, it's Christmas, it's Thanksgiving, it's holidays, it's dark and cold. A lot of the sellers take the homes off the market, which is pretty normal. Inventory went way down in January 2025. Whoops. Let me get back to the supply here. Where am I? What happened here? Let me go back. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. So in January 2025, of course, it was down. And as you know, that as we hit the spring market, March, April, May, we're almost in right here, April 2025, the inventory went up to 1.45. So if we compare July, for example, we were down to 1.32, and now we're at 1.45, and the trajectory is going up. In other words, as I mentioned earlier, the inventory has gone up. And as you know, the home prices are based on supply and demand. When there's less supply, the demand is more, as we saw in 2020, 21, 22 and some parts of 23, there's a big shortage, and the rates were down. So people were jumping and fighting to get homes because there's a very low supply of homes. So the prices went up, of course, because of also the interest rates. Then the interest rates went up to 6%, 7%, 7.5%, and we saw a dip in home sales, which is very normal because a lot of the buyers were not able to afford it or were kicked out of the housing market. They were unable to afford a house that was for $400,000 at 2.5%. The same house in a year was at 7.5%, and the buyer who was qualified at 2.5% was not able to buy that. So he or she was kicked out of the market, and it's still happening right now. There's a shortage of buyers because a lot of them cannot afford it. Let's look at another chart, and I'm going to go back to this chart here. Stop screen, and I'm going to share another chart. Just bear with me. And this chart is, let's look at Redfin. If you can, this is from Redfin. If you can see here, I want to make sure you can see it. So let me go back to the chart. Oh, which one was it? This one here. Sorry about that. So this one is as of back in September. And I'm going back because what was happening back then is half of all home listings have gone extra stale, unsold after 60 days on the market. And I'm bringing up an old statistics because this was back in September. We were talking about homes not selling back then. So imagine now with higher inventory, rates have not changed. They're still at, I would say, 6.5 to 7% range. Every week it changes daily, but on average, they haven't dropped under 6.5 in a couple of months, and they've been around 7% for the last few months. So let's say an average of 6.7, 6.8%. And a lot of the home buyers that want to buy are still out of the market. They cannot afford to buy. So what's happening is there's a slowdown in home purchases. Prices have gone up and up and up and up, still going up at a very slow pace. I'd say the average right now is about 1% to 1.2%. So the market is still going up on average, but some places, let's talk about Florida, cities like Miami, Naples, some other Jupiter, other cities that was very highly affected by the disasters, by the damages, by the condo shutdown, the HOA increases. Florida has gone through a tough time last year in the last few months, last 6 months. A lot of homes did not sell. There were a lot of vacant homes for sale. In fact, home prices dropped significantly. And from what I understand, and I don't have proof for it, but by talking to other agents in Florida, I'm hearing that a lot of sharks, a lot of investors, a lot of developers have bought these homes at low prices, 20, 30% below their peak prices, so they can fix it up and flip it and sell it or rent it out. So what happened was, because of the disasters, not only of the disaster, but because of the damages, which caused high insurance rate, high property taxes, because as the home values went up, the property prices went up, the property taxes went up. So all that took a lot of buyers who could not afford in Florida. A lot of the sellers could not sell. A lot of the sellers did not have money in their hand, so they could not fix up their homes, or they could not update their homes, or they did not get the money, insurance money, on time, and they wanted out of the home. So they put it on the market, but it took a long time to sell. So on overall, there was a flood of supplies. There's still a flood of supplies. And when I say flood of supplies, it in reference to 2 years ago. The supply was here in Florida, and then last year was up here, so it jumped. And now it has gone down a little bit because a lot of the investors, the developers, the shark, the flippers bought those homes. And also the buyers bought them home at 20, 30, 40% discount rates. And so the inventory has dropped a little bit. So let us know what's happening in your area. Do you see an increase in inventory? Do you see a drop in prices, or are the prices holding? Or what do you think is going to happen? So make a comment, ask a question. I'll be glad to answer. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. There's a couple of other things I wanted to discuss in this. And one of the things I want to discuss is The question is, what is the rising home inventory signals about home values? Let's talk about that, because one of the most important thing to the sellers is what is happening with the home values. I'm going to stop the screen share here. So as you know, when there's a shortage of supply, just want to when there's a shortage of supply, the demand is there, so the home values go up. But when there's a flood of home inventory, the buyers have a lot of choice. If there's three homes on the street where it used to be one home on the street or one home in the block, now there might be two or three homes. The buyer may see the home, may not like it, or may like it and make an offer. And if the seller does not accept the offer, before it was take it or leave it, right? There's no inspection, there's no appraisal, close in 30 days. The seller's saying, I'm not going to do any repairs, take it or leave it. And that was the market. That market has changed overall nationwide. Now, what we are seeing is that the buyer says, hey, here's my offer, telling to the seller, take it or leave it, because if you don't take my offer, I have three other homes I can write an offer to. In fact, I'll give you an example. It just happened to me. I showed a home. I just closed an escrow a month ago. So about 90 days ago, 120 days ago, I showed a house close to Anaheim Hills. It was listed for 1.25. We went to the open house and we felt that the price was very high because it needed a lot of work. There was an elderly owner staying in there. He was totally handicapped, could not do anything in the house, was being taken care of by caregivers. So the house took a beating. Nothing was fixed in there. It needed carpet, it needed paint, appliances were old, the landscaping was old, shower heads were old, a lot of things were old. It was dated. So we did not look at the house. We looked at the house, but my seller said, let's pass on it. It was a very nice house, very good location. 30 days later, we noticed that the sellers dropped the price from 1.25 to 1.15, $100,000 drop. So we went back in there, took a look at it, and we made an offer $50,000 less than 1.15. And with some negotiating, we got the house and we closed escrow. So two things happened. One, we bought way less than the original list price of 1.25. We got it close to 1.1 or under. On top of that, when we did the inspection, we found out a lot of stuff. There was a lot of issues: flooring, plumbing, the garage was not up to code, the water heater was not up to code, there were other things not up to code. We asked for up to $10,000 or $15,000 in repair work, because obviously the seller could not do anything. So instead of having the seller do the work, because he was unable to do so health-wise and medically speaking, so we just asked for a flat repair, and the seller agreed to do so. So my reason for saying all this is that sellers are now negotiating, because I told the listing agent, look, if you don't get our house, we feel the house is worth 1.1. There's a lot of work in there. There's about $20,000 work in there, but we're only asking $10,000 to $15,000. And the listing agent understood that if we don't buy, and my buyer was all cash, and he is an investor, and now it's rented out. We fixed it up, put new flooring, new paint, new shower heads, brought the garage, the water heater up to date. The fire codes were missing, so we fixed all that. It's rented out for over $5,000 a month. So our investor got what he wanted, seller got what he wanted. He could not get the price, are not jumping anymore. That was my whole point. Even in Southern California, when the market is very active compared to Pittsburgh, Houston, Miami, and Philadelphia, when one of the slowest markets as of 2 months ago, my point was, when there is more inventory, the buyers have more power to negotiate. And that's why the trend is increase in housing supply. So does that mean that in 6 months, we talked about the numbers I showed you, we were at 1.43 as of April 25th. Will it be at 1.7 in a few months? So as the inventory increases, the home prices drop because they have more choices. Buyers have more choices and sellers have to sell. They have to be more negotiable than when they were before. So now let's flip over and decide or talk about, if you're a seller, and I think most of my viewers are sellers. If you're a seller, Should you sell now or should you wait? Are the prices going to go up? If you're thinking about selling your home, let's say at $400,000, if you're in Texas or Florida, should you wait for the prices to go up to 450 and then sell? That may take few months, few years. Or because of oversupply, will the price that you're going to get right now, let's say you're getting $400,000, would you get 390 or 380 depending on what the market does? So again, let us know what's happening in your area. Are the prices going up? Are the prices going down? Or what do you anticipate based on talking to other agents or going to open houses or looking at Zillows and Redfins and Realtor.com? What's happening in your neighborhood? Make some comments so we know what's going on. So here's a couple of things if you're a seller. One thing I tell sellers and buyers is that you sell when the time is right. And when is the time is right? If you're ready to move, let's say you're in a 3-bedroom house and you need a 4-bedroom because now you get an extra baby or your parents are moving in, you need a bigger house. Is this the right time to move? Well, it's the right time to move because you can afford to buy a house. You are qualified to buy a house. You have the down payment to buy a house. And if you're getting $400,000 for your house, right, and you're waiting for 450, what if you wait and the house you're going to buy, let's say you're going to moving to San Francisco, not San Francisco, let's say Sacramento. What if the prices go up there as well? But in the meantime, the interest rates went up sky high, maybe from 7% to 7.5%. Is it a good thing? But if you feel like your numbers are right, you are qualified, you're ready to move, you're motivated to move, then do so. Because for people who have chased the market, a lot of the buyers have been chasing the market. What I mean is they keep telling us, oh, Mike, I'm going to wait until the rates drop. I'm going to wait until the prices drop. Well, I have 2 buyers that were going to buy in 2021. And guess what? They are still renting. And the rent that they were paying at $3,000 a month, they're paying $3,500 a month. So basically, they're crying every day because I talk to them. And I mean that in a good way. They waited to chase the market, and now they're outpaced from the market. What I mean was back then they were qualified to buy up to $800,000, and this was around 5% interest rate. They waited and waited. Now the prices have gone up. The $800,000 house now is worth $1 million, at least in Orange County, and the rates are 7%. So they cannot qualify for that. And furthermore, when I show them a home for $800,000 online, I'm not going to show them anything because they're not quite serious. The house they get for $800,000 today versus what they got 3 years ago is a much smaller house. Instead of a 2,000 square feet home, they're getting a 1,700 square feet home. So by them waiting, they're outpaced from the market. They cannot afford to buy the current values. And because they waited so long, they have to buy a lower sized home or in a different area. So don't be in that situation. If you want to move, make a move, sell your house and make a move. Similarly, if you're a buyer, say the same thing. Don't chase the market. Buy when you are ready, willing, and able to buy. What happens in 3 months when you pull the trigger to buy? You get a notice to leave the company. In other words, you get unemployed. Now you got a problem. You cannot buy a house, and you're going to end up renting and renting and renting, and you don't get any tax benefits. So, like I said, you buy when you're ready, willing, and able to buy, or sell when you are ready, willing, and able to. Or if you got a promotion, make the move. The only thing I tell you not to buy another house or a brand new house, in the sense, if you're a first time buyer, don't buy. Or if you're a seasoned homeowner and want to buy something, don't buy for short term. That's the only thing I tell them. The only reason you would not buy is, hey, you know what? I want to move to Texas, but I may have to move in 2 or 3 years. Or I'm a first time buyer. Say, you know what? I'm not too sure if I want to stay in Orange County because I may consider moving to Florida because the homes are cheaper, but I have to put in 3 more years on my work. I would highly not recommend that because the market, my personal opinion is the market is still good, but I think my personal opinion is prices may come down. Of course, that's my opinion based on what's going on. It may still go up, maybe a year, 2 years by 1%, 2% on average. and I'm talking Orange County. So if you're going to buy, then buy for long term. Plan on staying there for 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. And the reason I say that is typically market's cycle was 7 to 8 years. Prices went up 7, 8 years, and they came down 5, 6, 7 years. So, but, and it's a big but, BUT, since 2011, prices has gone up significantly. From 2011 to 2016, if you owned a home in 2011, your house is doubled in value on average. So the question is, on the next down cycle, is it going to be 5 to 7 year down cycle, or is it going to be a down cycle like the up cycle, which was almost 12 to 14 years? What if the down cycle prices keep going down 1%, 1%, 1% for 15 years? That's more than 15% drop. So if you are thinking about moving within 5 to 7 years, I would not buy. That's the only time I tell buyers not to buy. If you're planning on staying there for 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, go for it. Don't worry about the price. Don't worry about the interest rate. Chances are rates will drop in the period that you're in your home. You can always refinance if you had to, and if it drops, which it usually does. So those are the things that I would consider if you are thinking about buying and or selling and buying. So let's talk about rent versus sell decision in today's uncertain market. So some of you buyers are thinking about waiting, getting an interest rate. But in the meantime, what's happening is if you are renting, and you know as a renter, as home prices go up, rents go up, right? So if you were renting 2 years ago, I'm sure your landlord has increased your rents by $100, $200, $400, depending on where you are. So rent versus buy. Well, if you buy, there's a lot of advantages. You get tax write-offs, you get interest write-offs, you start building equity day one, because when you pay your principal and interest, you're building equity, because every time you make a payment, there's some portion goes to a principal. But if you're renting, you have no tax advantage. You're not gaining any property equity in there. You're not getting tax write-offs. You're not getting any appreciation. When you buy a house, on average, home prices on average increase 3 to 4%, anywhere from 2 to 4% per year over the next 20, 30 years. So you're not getting that. So again, the big question is, should you buy or rent? Well, that's something you want to talk to your local realtor, talk to your accountant, talk to your financial planner. What are your long-term goals? If you're thinking long-term, I would say buy. Doesn't matter today. If I was a buyer, I would go buy today at the current price, at the current rate, because I know that, for as an example, I bought my house, I won't say, but a long time ago, 25 years ago. And I had my ups and downs. In 2008, the market crashed. I bought my house around 250. It came at about $400,000 in 2008, went back to $300,000 value because of the big recession and the crash. But now it's up way, way up. It's 4 times what I paid for. On top of that, every month I've made payments, never missed one payment. In fact, for the last 10 years, I've paid extra. I always talk about pay extra, pay $100 extra, $500 extra. If you get a bonus check, if you get a tax refund, if you get some money, pay towards principal. So I've reduced my principal drastically by making extra payments, $50, $100, $500. At the same time, my home value has gone up. So I'm jumping in joy because my home value has gone up and my principal has gone down because I did the right thing. So if you think long term, you can't go wrong with real estate. The richest people in the world are people who own real estate. And the reason for that is because, one, people buy income properties, investment property, homes. You get tax advantage, you get depreciation, you get principal deductions every month. At the same time, you get appreciation. So you can't go wrong with real estate as long as you buy long term. So just wanted to put that in. I got off track a little bit, but wanted to throw it in there because there's some buyers still thinking today. I have some friends talk to me last year and say, should I buy or should I wait? And they waited. It's been a year and they're still waiting. And the prices have gone up. almost 2% in Southern California from last year, depending on where you are, but on average. So now, $800,000 house that they were thinking about now is going to cost them more. And they paid rent. So here's a calculation on rent. Let's say in Orange County, I want to throw a number in there. One of the biggest challenges of home buyers is coming up with the down payment. So let's do some calculation. Let's say you wanted to buy a house 2 years ago, but you are waiting, right? Because you were chasing the market. Oh, the market, I'll buy when the interest rate comes down and when the rates come down. Well, let's assume that in the last 2 years, and let's talk fact. In the last 2 years, rates have not come down. They've stayed high near 7%, and the prices have gone up. So if you were in Orange County, a 3,000 is an average rent. So if you were staying in Orange County, the first year you paid 3,000 a month rent is $36,000. The second year you paid rent is another $36,000. And I'm being nice here and assuming that your landlord did not increase your rent. So if you count 36,000 for the first year, 36,000 for the second year, that's $72,000. That's your down payment right there. I did a TikTok video today, and it says that on average, the average down payment is about $77,000 on a conventional loan. So in 2 years, you already lost that. And on an FHA loan, first-time home buyers, the average down payment is $16,000 if you use the government loan or the VA loan. So here's your down payment. You're renting for 2 years. If you don't rent, if you stayed with your parents or if you stayed with somebody and you did not have to pay rent, there's your down payment. But if you rent, you just lost your down payment with no tax benefit, no appreciation, no depreciation, no tax benefit. So I hope I drove that point well, that if you're waiting to buy and sell, or if you're selling and buying, you're losing some big numbers there. So don't chase the market. That's what I always say. But of course, at the end of the day, it's your decision on your timing. I want to bring up another chart that's kind of important and talk about some numbers. So let me go to the chart and bring that up again. Share screen. And I think, let's see, which one is it? Okay, there you go. Let me see here. Okay, I think I showed you this. It's this one here, United States housing market. And this is from Redfin. And let's look at some numbers. If you can see the numbers here, I'm talking about the median sales price. If you look at 2023 over here, in January 2023, the median sales price was around here. I don't know what it was, but it's under $400,000. It was around 380, 390. But if you look over here, as of May 2025, it's close to $450,000. That's what I was talking about. If you waited, on average, of course, if you're in California, you would be paying a lot more. But on average, you are paying, compared to here, 380. By waiting, you are paying almost $50,000, $60,000 on an average home. That's the cost of waiting. That's the cost of procrastinating. That's the cost of not making a decision whether to buy or sell and buy. Prices have been going up, and this is, of course, history. It's in the past. We don't know what's going to happen, but that's what this chart is about. Let's look at the overview. Let's talk about the supply. I talked about supply earlier. According to Redfin, the supply back in May 2022 was under 1.6 million. And right now, May 2025, we're just over 2 million homes for sale. Number of homes for sale, it's up 14% year over year. That's the point I was trying to drive, is that the inventory has jumped in 1 year. Here's the proof. It's 14% up. Let's look where it was last year. Right now, in May, it's at about 2 million. Let's go back to May 2024. Let's see, where are we? Here it is, May 2024. It was around 1.8. So there's almost a jump of 500 to 600,000 homes for sale on the market, which is a significant number. And that's comparing 3 years. If we compare 1 year, just 1 year from May, you can see that it dropped in November, December, but that's not really a true drop. A lot of sellers take their home off the market. In the cold seasons, in the cold areas, um, people just don't want to put their homes on the market, and people just take it off for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and holidays. But here we are at almost 2 million, almost just under 2.1 million. Let's look at the demand. And of course, these are current numbers. Demand means homes that sold above list price or homes that sold. Let's look at 1 year comparison. Let's look at 3 years. I'm sure you can see. What does this mean? Homes demand means, if I'm reading right here, if you can see it, what does that mean? Homes that sold above list price likely received multiple offers. A high or growing percentage of homes selling above list price indicates that the housing market is competitive and bidding wars are becoming more common. So if you look over here, homes sold above list price, there's actually a negative number. It's almost 4% drop, which means that, as I mentioned earlier, I give you an example where there's more inventory, and I give you the example of my buyer who bought for 1.1 all cash. We bought almost close to $125,000 under list price, but that was one case. But if you look at the overall scenario, homes sold above list price, not a whole lot. Well, actually, 31% of the homes sold over list price. But when you compare that year over year from last year, there was a drop of 4%. That means prices are finally dropping and not jumping like crazy. This one here shows that 5% year over year where home prices dropped. There was 21% of the homes had drops in prices compared to last year. So what was the sales to list price? Again, if you just compare 1 year, it's pretty much still selling at list price, right around 1%, 2%. And of course, there are some owners who ask for a lot of price and they have to drop it. There's a lot of people who list it below market so they can sell within a week. But on average, homes are still selling at list price. So they're not dropping drastically. Of course, if you look at Florida, if you look at Chicago, if you look at some parts of Texas, some parts of Philadelphia, there have been significant price drops, 10, 20, 30%. But if you, some areas like right now, a lot of the northwest, northeast, above Chicago, in that area, they're selling over list price. But if you average it out, and of course, I mentioned to you earlier that the home prices are local, it all averages it out. Let's talk about migration. I don't really want to talk about migration, but it all depends whether the market is strong and where people are moving from. This one here, it says here, nationwide, 25% of home buyers search to move to a different metro area between February 2025 and April 2025. The top five states home buyers searched to move to were Florida, Arizona, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee, while California, New York, Illinois, Washington, and Maryland were the top states home buyers searched to move from. So, of course, home prices in these metro areas, North Carolina, California, New York, expensive homes. The home sellers are trying to sell, take their equity, a lot of equity in the home, and moving to states where homes are much cheaper, as it shows in Florida and Texas. And let's hear. It says here more than 4,000 people were searching to move into Texas versus out of the state. Let's look at California. More than 47,000 searching to move out of California state versus into the state. Let's look at Florida, and this may come as a surprise here. More than 30,000 people were searching to move into Florida state versus out of state. And one of the reasons is because home prices really dropped. I had mentioned earlier about Chicago, Illinois. More than 17,000 people were searching to move out of Illinois state versus into the state. That's why there's a price drop, because when people are trying to move out, they put the home in the market, they want to move out, so they may drop the price. So this gives you a basic idea of what's happening out there. One more thing we can look at. Let's look at the fixed mortgage here. National average 30-year fixed rate mortgage. I want to check one thing quickly here. There you go. Okay. I had a comment here. So BAM Media is asking, is now a good time to buy? Qualified but nervous with a $3,100 payment. Would prefer a more comfortable payment, but the house is perfect. We can afford it for now. Well, that's a great question, and thanks for asking. Um, it all I'm going to it all depends on your situation, your motivation. The first question I would ask is, why do you want to buy? Do you have to buy? Are you buying because you're tired of renting? Are you moving somewhere? Or you are looking long-term investment, a long-term gain? Is it better to buy now? So I cannot answer that specifically, but it all depends on your current situation. After the call, if you would like to call me or we can discuss, I'll be glad to discuss with you. But earlier I discussed about, you buy when you are really ready, willing, and able to buy. So if you have the down payment, if you have the qualification, and if you have to move, maybe you have a job qualification or a promotion where you have to move, pull the trigger. As long as you're not going to sell in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I would say go ahead and buy. If your motivation is there, your parents are moving in, or you have a baby coming in, you need a bigger house, you want a better school area, better district where you're renting right now. So yes, it's a good time to buy if you are ready, willing, and able to do so, but I cannot specifically say go ahead or not. So if you have any further question, just make another comment so I can guide you better. But as of right now, if you can afford it, pull the trigger. Don't be like my friends who haven't bought since 2021 and now they are crying because they're out of the market. They are out. They cannot afford it at all. So don't be in that situation. If you can afford it, if you're qualified, if you're okay with the payments, if you're okay with the interest rate, they're not going anywhere. They're at 6.8, 6.9. They may go down to 6%. Who knows? But hey, they may go to 8%. Who knows? There's a lot of volatility in our economy right now. The tariffs made a big impact. The tariffs made a big impact on the decisions on to buy or not. And a lot of people backed off because not only the tariffs, but the property taxes have gone sky high. The insurance rates have gone sky high. At the same time, the prices went up and interest rates went up. So if your payment 2 years ago was $2,000 a month, the same house now will cost you $3,000 a month. On top of that, to maintain that house is going to cost you more because the parts cost you more, the labor costs you more. So, you buy when you're ready. Again, I keep saying that. I sound like a broken record, but that's the key point. If you're selling and then buying, or if you're just buying, pull the trigger if you're comfortable with the numbers, as long as you are buying long term. Thanks again. I got another comment here. Can your monthly price change? So even if you can afford now, maybe you can't if prices go up. Oh my gosh, this is the great question, one of the best questions. I did a video. You should check it out. It's the video. It says here, this is very important. I'm going to pull the video name out for you. It's called People Are Losing Their Homes. I have almost 300,000 views on it, actually 278,000 views on it. And the reason is to answer your same question. Yes, your price will change. Your monthly price will change even if you have a fixed interest rate. So your PITI, which is the principal, insurance, tax, and your interest, it should be principal interest, which is fixed for 30 years. If you have a fixed interest rate, that will never change. But what's happening in the last 2 or 3 years, and a lot of people, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of people, are losing homes because of TI, which is tax and insurance. On top of that, add HOA, homeowners association. So if you have a PITI, or let's say 3,000 when you bought it, and now it's been 2 years and 3 years, especially for people who bought in 22, 23, 24, a lot of those people who put low down payment are actually losing homes and can't afford it, because what happened was, if you bought a home and your PITI was $3,000, out of that, let's say $1,000 was your property tax and insurance. What has happened in the last couple of years and what's happening now at a very rapid rate to a lot of people is that property tax have really jumped, especially in states like Texas and Florida and Arizona and Nebraska, where property taxes can jump. Unlike California, we are protected by Prop 13, which is the Howard Jarvis proposition, where our property tax cannot increase. It has been at 1.1% for the last 30 years. It can only increase by CPI or so, which is about 2.5%. So our property taxes are very stable, but some states like Texas, it can double and triple, and it has happened. At the same time, so let's say your payment was $3,000 a month, and you're in Austin where property tax jumped, and your property tax went from $400 a month to, let's say, went to $700 a month. So now you have a $300 increase in your property tax. And then at the same time, your insurance went up from $300 a month to $600 a month. So all of a sudden, your $3,000 payment went up to $3,600 a month. At the same time, if you had a newer home or a new townhouse, your HOA went up from, let's say, $200 to $300. And the reason the HOA goes up is because the insurance goes up, and the insurance will charge you because they have to have a master policy of fire and maintenance and all that. So all of a sudden, your payment jumped from $3,000 to $3,700. So please watch that video. It's called Why Americans Are, what did I say? It was called People Are Losing Their Homes. Please watch it. It's the third latest video, and it'll give you an understanding on what happens. So to answer your question, yes, even your fixed payments goes up, especially if you have an escrow account. And that's where the problem begins, is a lot of the people are paying through escrow. I pay my property taxes every 6 months. I handwrite a check. Yes, I'm old school. I write a check every 6 months. I could bill pay or pay by credit card, but they charge you 3%. So I'm old school. I'm going to write a check. But in escrow account, what they do is when you buy your house, they set up an escrow account where your principal, interest, tax, and insurance is automatically sent to the lender. It automatically pays your insurance and taxes. But if your property tax goes up, your insurance goes up, it resets. And then you don't know that until towards the end. So you get a shock. And a lot of the buyers that I mentioned in that video have gotten shocks of their life where their payments have jumped $500, $600, $700 a month. And these are people who are not making a lot of money. They barely were able to afford to buy a house. Now they have a baby. Now they have to do updating their house. The tariffs have gone up. So everything is costing them more. Utilities have gone up. Electricity has gone up. Insurance has gone up. Property tax has gone up. Medical insurance has gone up. Medical premiums has gone up. And they're losing their homes. In fact, there are about, when it comes to FHA loans, a lot of these people who are having this impact are people who bought with low down payment or easy qualify loans like VA loans and FHA loans. Those are the people in trouble because they have fixed income. And now with a jump of $500, $200, $1,000 a month, it's a significant increase and they cannot afford it. So they have to sell the home. Luckily, they have equity, so they can still sell the home. But the problem is when they sell the home, they cannot buy a smaller home because they cannot afford it, because their credit went bad, because they missed payments, or the dilemma is that they're paying very high rents. So either way, they're stuck. So it's a crisis right now. And I don't mean to be negative. And that's the whole point of bringing this live stream today, is that are we heading for a crash? The title says, what does the title say? Is that, are we headed for a crash? And what is the impact of the supply? So on one hand, the prices are staying high, supply is going up. A lot of the sellers who want to sell cannot sell because they have 3% interest rates. And if they sell, they cannot qualify to buy something at 7%. And when they buy something else, their property taxes will go up, their insurance will go up. So on one hand, they're stuck. They cannot sell their home. And on the other hand, they cannot even stay in the home because they don't have money to pay for the increased cost and the increased maintenance, especially if you're in Florida or other states in Texas and Nebraska where there's damage due to the disasters. So So to answer your question, yes, I'm going to type it up here. Payments can and will go up because your insurance and your property taxes go up, and your yearly maintenance, any home, it costs you on average 1% to maintain your home. In other words, if I buy a house for $400,000, I should figure to spend about $4,000 a year on maintenance. Maybe my AC blew out, or my dishwasher went out. I just fixed my garage the other day. The garage door was not closing. It was opening, but it was not closing. So I had to press it all the way. So I called the garage guy. He came in, fixed it in 2 minutes, charged me $100, but I paid to him. There was something wrong with the sensor. He adjusted something. I didn't know about it, but it cost me $100. So these things cost money. So on average, you're going to spend 4,000. Now it's going to be more. The national average is about 1% of your purchase price, but I would say now it's 2% because labor has gone up, everything else has gone up. So I hope I'm not just talking and talking. I hope I'm making some points. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, so 4,000 property tax on $400,000 home. That's if you're in California, where our property tax is about 1.1%. But some states, I think Texas is about 2%, but they can increase. As I mentioned earlier, in California, because of the Prop 13, the Howard Jarvis proposition back in the 80s, we are protected from the jump. A lot of states are not protected. I understand that in some areas near Austin and San Antonio, there's certain communities where brand new homes were built and they sold at higher prices because all the Californians rushed into Austin when the Tesla went up and all the companies moved over there. Home prices really jumped. So when all those new homes sold at higher prices, all the surrounding areas, your tax assessors or your county people increased taxes in that neighborhood. So it jumped significantly. So yes, taxes go up and will do so always. They'll never drop. Politicians, county people, assessors, they need revenue. They need money for schools. They need money for roads. They need money for police. They need money for fire department, for libraries, for schools, for fire system. Guess where they get them from? Taxes. We pay sales tax. We pay income tax. We pay property tax. And we're going to keep paying taxes. We're going to keep paying taxes. They're never going to drop. So the way I say things is, if you start with your payment at 2,000, they'll never ever drop. Especially if you have HOA. I have HOA, and I started 25 years ago at $80, and now it's close to $300 a month. So they'll never drop. They'll never drop. So, and I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be positive and explain to you how the numbers work. And these are the kind of questions I commonly get. But if you go to changing topics here, if you go to Redfin, I'm sure you all do go to Redfin and Zillow and Realtor.com and other websites. They talk about home prices, and they talk about home prices that are stabilizing. So, excuse me. So there's a question here from Crime India. Thanks for watching and thanks for asking this question. Why is housing market in Florida affected the most? Sellers are not able to sell for a year. Well, there are several reasons. One of the biggest reason is the natural disasters created an insurance increase. A lot of homes were damaged, so a lot of the sellers cannot afford to fix it. A lot of homes are vacant. A lot of the sellers moved out. And there's a lot of there was a new regulation that came out. I think it's Bill 154 or 145. When there was a condo collapse, a lot of the condos that are over three stories were reassessed for safety, earthquake safety, falling down safety, and all that. So a lot of the older condos, a lot of high rises in Florida, a lot of them are built in the 60s, 70s, 80s. They have new regulations and they have to update those standards. So all the assessment, the homeowners association were slapped with $100,000, $200,000 worth of work to fix the condos, even $1 million. So what did they do? They took that reassessment, let's say it's $500,000 and there was 100 units in there, they charge everybody else $5,000 or $50,000 each to pay up. So that was one thing. At the same time, because the insurance companies increased the master policy, the HOA went up. At the same time, homes in Florida, the insurance went up. The damage was very high, so the insurance costs are very high. Labor cost is very high. So if you combine all those factors, at the same time, nationwide the home prices went up, interest rates went up. At the same time, a lot of people could not move in and did not want to move to Florida because the prices were too high. So the combination of all these caused a drop in housing in the last year. A lot of homes sold. There was a big inventory. There was a lot of inventory, but it's coming back up because a lot of those homes were sold, as I mentioned earlier. You might have just joined me, but a lot of the investors, developers, contractors, and sharks bought those homes and remodeling, and hopefully they'll rent it out. So I'm just going to say here, I just answered your questions. So thanks for asking this question. If you have more questions, feel free to ask more questions. I'm going to touch on a couple of more things. There was one more slide I wanted to show. Let me show that. Let's talk about that, and then we'll end the program. Okay. This is from, let's see if you can see it. This is from the website Bankrate, and this is on as of June 9, 2025. So very fresh information. As you can see, the topic is housing market predictions for the rest of 2025. Key takeaways. Would-be home buyers continue to be discouraged by elevated mortgage rates and ever-rising home prices. That's not me saying, that's the Bankrate saying, based on their research. In addition, while housing inventory has grown, it's still below what's needed for a balanced market. And I mentioned that earlier, inventory has gone up, but it's still lower than the normal times. While these issues show signs of improving, experts still expect the remainder of 2025 to be challenging for the US housing market. Furthermore, I'm going to read the next paragraph. The housing market in the second half of 2025 might have a more favorable outlook than much of 2024 had, especially if mortgage rates improve. There's still plenty of uncertainty in the air, though rising prices and slowing construction could cause some trouble for buyers. And the ongoing impact of tariffs, the big word tariffs, as well as new presidential administration as a whole, remains a wild card. Home prices, mortgage rates, inventory levels, and more will all shape housing affordability throughout the rest of the year. Curious where these trends may go? Read on to learn what the experts predict for the remainder of 2025. So I'm going to read further and complete this paragraph. What will happen to the housing market in 2025? And of course, we are in June 16th today, halfway through the year. So after dipping as low as 6.2% in September 2024, the average 30-year mortgage rate rose back to above 7% in early 2025. Previous predictions of lower rates in 2025 have shifted, with experts now predicting rates will moderate but not necessarily decrease in a substantial way. Remember, I said buy when you are ready, willing, and able to buy. Don't chase the market, especially the mortgage rates. There is no way to find out if it's going to go up or down. And then the last paragraph, it says that indeed, rates remain only just a hair below that 7% threshold, 6.94% as of late May, indicating that affordability is likely to continue to be a continuing issue for the rest of 2025. Continued economic growth and worries about inflation and government debt will keep mortgage rate elevated. So again, it comes down to, are you chasing the market? You never know what's going to happen. So there's two ways to look at it. One, if you're chasing the market, you don't know when the rates will drop. At the same time, as prices stay high, interest rates stay high, a lot of the buyers who want to buy cannot afford to buy because a 1% change in the mortgage rate throw them out of the market. If I was qualified at 6% or 7% to buy a house at $400,000, and after a year that house is now worth 420 and the rates went up to 7.2%, I still cannot afford it. So it's a big dilemma. I have a question here. Let me answer that. Hey, I'm in New Jersey and we have no land to build new homes, and people don't want to sell because most of them are at 3 or 3.5% interest rate. Do you think the price will reduce if that is true? Well, that's a great question, Francisco. There's no land anywhere, right? In general, in metro areas, in busy areas. So prices keep going up. And one of the biggest reasons for the shortage is, to your point, Francisco, a lot of them have 2%, 3%. I have 3% and I'm never going to sell. Why should I sell 3% and buy at 7%? So the shortage is going to be there. So the price inventory may not go up as much as it did in 2008. I don't think that's going to happen. But again, I'm no expert. I don't know the New Jersey market. But overall, the 2%, 3%, 4% interest rate is causing a shortage, is one of the reasons there's a shortage. Of course, there's also a lot of buyer demand. So that's why there's also a shortage. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But, price drop, look at what happened in Florida. Look at what's happening in Chicago. Look at what's happening in Houston, Austin area. There's other reasons prices are dropping. So, your market is local. If you want, I can refer you to an agent. I know somebody very personally there. Her name is Jackie. She also has a YouTube channel. Feel free to contact her or let me know. I'll connect you with you. She's also in New Jersey. So Parveen, you have another question here. I look effed up. Well, thank you. It is hot in here. It's California. I have 2 lights over here. It's hot. I'm sweating. I'm trying not to show it, but thanks for watching. And I hope you're in a better mood down the road. So, all right. Yes. To answer your question, yes, Jackie Baker. You can Google her and her YouTube will show up. She has a very popular channel. Just type in Jackie Baker. I'm sorry, I typed in Jaci, but it should be Jackie. Jakie Baker. Type in Jackie Baker on YouTube and you'll see her channel. Or you can direct message me and I can give you her email address or phone number. So anyway, I'm glad you hung in there. It's almost been an hour. I have another call at 6 o'clock, but I wanted to end with a couple of questions. The question is, and here's the question, and if you can make a comment on it, is the housing market tipping from seller's market to the buyer's market? What is your opinion? Let me know. Or let us know. Yes, Rich, she is live. She comes in an hour after I am. And just hit her up on there. And tell her Mike Patel says hi to her as well. Here's some data that I want to leave with. Data snapshot. According to Redfin, there are 500,000 more sellers than buyers as of April 2025, the largest imbalance since 2013. Also, the inventory at highest level since 2019, with approximately 44% of listings over 60 days on the market. That means, remember in the 22, 23, homes were selling within 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, they were going. But according to these stats, and remember, the more the inventory, the longer it takes to sell. So right now, homes are selling anywhere from 30 to 60 days, up to 80 days, 90 days, depending on where you are. So it's taking longer and longer to sell homes. But this stat is very significant. It says that 44% of the listings are 60 days on the market. That is pretty significant. And in those areas that it's taking, the longer it takes to sell a house, the lower the price the seller gets. That's how the math works. The shorter it takes to sell, in other words, if you see a listing and if it sells within 2 or 3 days, it's a guaranteed that the home sells at full price or over list price. It's pretty much a guarantee. But if a home sells in this market after 60 days, after 90 days, it's guaranteed that homes will sell 2, 3, 4, 5% below the asking price. At the same time, they may have to give, and when I say they, seller may have to give closing costs to the buyer. They may have to do some repair work or give credit to the buyer, or they may have to leave some sofa or appliances, or they may ask for a refrigerator or a chandelier, and you may have to give that in. So we are headed that way, but that's only happening in certain areas. So the market is mixed. Certain areas are having a hard time. Certain areas, I mean Anaheim Hills, Orange County, market is not hot, but it's pretty active. So hopefully that'll help. So the biggest question, and I want to leave you with the biggest question, is the interest rate. What we call in real estate is a time bomb. And if the inventory increases and if the rates don't drop, we may see an increase in inventory, because the more interest rates there are, less people can afford it. I read a statistics. In fact, I did a video a couple of days ago, and one of the charts I used, and here's the statistics, which is fascinating on a negative side. The statistics, here's the stats. The median home price in 2025 is about $440,000. The average household income right now in USA is about $85,000. That means the average household that makes $85,000 cannot afford the $400,000 house. That's the stat. But here's the worst stat. 60% of home buyers cannot afford to buy a $300,000 house today, which are very sad numbers because the income is not there. Based on home prices, based on interest rate, based on the income, 60% of the home buyers cannot afford a $300,000 house today, which is very sad. That tells you where you are at. Are you at $85,000 household income? Are you more? Are you less? In California, where I'm in Anaheim Hills, the median home price is about 1.2 or $1.1 million. So for you to buy that house, you better have way more than $85,000 income, because you're not going to be able to buy something here, let alone buy something in Texas or Montana. So the numbers look scary. They don't match with the home prices. They have been up. Those who can afford a home. Those who cannot afford can just not afford to home, even though deep down they want to buy a house, but they just cannot afford to buy a house. So with that, I'm going to end this live stream. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, please make any comments, and I'll be back next week at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. And for those of you watching this as a recording, please make comments. I'll be glad to answer any of your questions. Thanks a lot.